Welcome to r/PettyRevenge, where we share stories of small victories over those who have wronged you. Thank you guys for subscribing, likes, and supporting in the comments. The first story was abused and thrown away and let go by an abusive supervisor, but caused so much backlash he quit the job. The second story, a-hole regretted deciding to park his car anywhere he wants. The third story, the guy said his clothing store was too good for someone like me, and then I spend $2,000 in another store and flaunt them in front of him. So let's get to the first story. Traumatize me and throw me out like an old rag, will you? During 2011, I had a job with a company I shall call VM as an IT assistant. First, a little background. I was severely abused by my father to the point that I tried to commit suicide at age 10 and again at age 12. I will not state the grisly details, but suffice it to say some have felt like they were getting close to passing out when I would relate the horror. As a result, when being wronged by those in authority, I tend to think it's my fault. I also tend to shut down when trying to confront said authority figure, so I tend to not rock the boat, but just take it. This is not the best thing for me to do, as it makes it difficult to function and do my job. Thing is, said authority figure may cow me for the time being, but when I'm out from under their thumb, watch out. Bad things are coming. And that's where this story and reason for petty revenge comes in. Said boss, let's call him Andy, personally designed the entire system over a period of 17 years. Andy is somewhat of a programming prodigy, which made him one of those types that had no patience with others. He would write instructions for completing certain tasks that were missing steps, and he would get upset at me when I pointed them out. Basically, he didn't want to teach someone or assist them to understand the system he had built up. He complained that I asked questions rather than taking calculated risks, as he called it. But I learned as a programmer to be thorough and make sure and never take risks with the data or daily operations. There were many examples of him leaving me with projects that needed to be done, but he himself did not want to bother answering questions or pointing me in the right direction. To be fair, there were exceptions. Towards the end of the year, Andy went on a month-long vacation to Vietnam and dropped this huge project on me that involved importing data, and it had to be done in 4 hours, but there were problems. The wiki he left to follow was so full of holes you could drive a battleship through it, and the import itself involved so much data to be imported that it took 5 hours for the data import to finish. Another project was to install a major upgrade to a piece of specialty accounting and customer issue tracking software that they paid a company I shall call BS $14,000 for. I discovered that the software was not a finished product, but a beta version, and was full of bugs. Andy told me not to install that software until they fixed the bugs, and I worked with BS to get the bugs fixed, and I received high praise in my great job in helping BS track down their bugs. She cited an email from BS stating that if it weren't for me, they would not have been able to fix all those bugs in the 6 weeks it took them to fix them. When Andy returned from Vietnam, he had me in for a 12-month review, and on that review were demerits for not installing that beta software until 6 weeks after the deadline, instead of praise for helping BS fix all the issues. He'd also told me not to work on the new phone system, and then blame me for not getting it done. He told me that my job was not in danger, but that I just needed to do better, and that lit a fire under me, to work all the more to do better. The job was so stressful that I would start to pass out while trying to eat in the morning, and I would have to literally crawl to the bathroom at night to tinkle. All my friends could see the toll the job stress was taking on me. It was ripping me apart. 2 weeks later, I was let go with a week's severance pay and back pay. I felt relief and I felt terrible. I lost my job, and in these difficult times, losing a job was not an option. Stressful as that job was, I frankly would rather have had a fatal heart attack than lose that job. It wasn't long before I rose up from all the browbeating and began to figure out what was going on and what Andy had done to me, and now to the revenge. The owner of the company, I shall call him Mark, liked me, and we were friends, and about a week later I sent him an email pointing out the discrepancies on my review and said, he lied on that review. You remember me getting high praise from your daughter? I said if he can lie to me, he can lie to you. How trustworthy can he be? You can see the exchange about the bugs in my email. Your company has gone through uncounted employees looking for someone who understands the system as well as Andy does, but that person does not exist because Andy's not willing to teach or help beyond the most rudimentary and inadequate steps. How many employees have you gone through, and how many more will your company go through and pay severance pay to because Andy isn't willing to take the time to teach them the ropes? It wasn't long before I heard from a friend of Andy's that he was told not to hire anyone else, but to outsource the code to someone else, but no one locally wanted to tackle it, knowing what a labyrinth it was. Andy ended up having to outsource it to some overseas company, and that Andy was very upset with this because he could not explain what the code needed to do, and the programmers there made so many errors that it takes me longer to fix the code than it would if I had just written it myself. A few months later, I saw that Andy had quit, and my friend said he was tired of all the BS and took a job elsewhere as a plain old programmer instead of a supervisor. I would like to think that I had something to do with all the BS that caused him to quit a job of 17 plus years, and I'm glad to know he's not a supervisor who can inflict his special brand of passive-aggressive abuse on others. I think what really happened is he hired me, and then used me to fill in a job I was not ready for him, so he could use his accumulated vacation time, and then I was given the boot. The second story is, a-hole decides he can park anywhere he wants. A few weeks ago on a very nice sunny weekend, some of my neighbors had a large multifamily garage sale. I wasn't involved in it, but wandered around looking for more stuff I don't need. They'd put up signs for blocks around, and a lot of people were stopping by. Parking spots were scarcer than full sets of teeth at a tobacco spitting contest. I'd about decided to head over to a barbecue food truck that a guy operates on weekends to pick up supper for the family when a BMW pulls into my driveway and spits out a fat middle-aged guy, a skinny pinch-faced woman, and a teen girl with an I don't give an F about anything expression. He didn't just pull into the foot of the drive near the street. He pulled up past the sidewalk about 6 feet from my garage. He's way into my private property area. Maybe he thought he was being considerate by leaving room for a Mercedes and Audi to park also. I called out, "Hey man, you can't park here. This is my driveway and it's private property." He didn't even turn around but said, "Don't worry about it, we won't be very long." "Hey, come back here and move your car," I called after him. Still not turning around, he gave me a dismissive wave with the back of his hand and kept walking toward the garage sale tables. My neighbor was watering his lawn and also not involved in the weekend's buy my junk frenzy, looked at me with a WTF just happened face. I said, "Bob, would you mind parking your beater as close as you can to this German a-hole?" Bob had considerably parked his go-to-work car in his drive instead of curbside to make room available for shoppers. Bob agreed and now was parked about 10 feet past the sidewalk and well onto my property as his car sat spooning the Beamer. I opened the garage door and backed my car out within Frenching distance of the shiny white unwanted guest. Yeah, I'm talking menage a trois here. I decided to grill some chicken since I wasn't going anywhere for a while and set up my grill about 2 feet from the driver's side door. I had a family pack of chicken thighs in the fridge and decided to sacrifice a few of them by placing them skin side down over the hot flames. Naturally, they caught fire and sent urgent smoke signals to the T-Waddler and his family that something was very wrong. "What the F are you doing? That's my car." "How'd your shopping go? Did you find anything interesting?" I asked. "Third house down had a few nice cast iron pans you might be interested in." "Stop what you're doing right now." Just then, my wife, who'd figured out what I was doing, came out of the house with a hastily made sign that read, "Parking $25 an hour, half-hour minimum." "What the F?" he screamed, his face now the color of fresh arterial blood. My wife propped the sign up against the garage, and now I can see that she's wearing her S&W 357 Magnum, a beautiful little short-barreled stainless steel revolver. "I'll be inside if you need me," she said. "I have to finish skinning those squirrels for that stew." This is my wife's idea of a joke. We don't eat squirrels. After seeing that my wife was a heat-packing squirrel eater, the screaming monkey effer calmed down a little and said, "I just need a place to park, okay? I'm gonna call the cops. You can't do this." "No, it's not okay. Not even a little." "I can't do what? Park on my own property, grill some chicken? Are you saying I can't do that?" "You can't block my car like this," he said. "Technically, I'm not blocking your car. My neighbor's car is behind yours, not mine, and I don't know where he is right now. Don't worry about it, he won't be very long." I turned and gave a wave with the back of my hand. I went inside for a beer and waited. 6 ounces later, I heard a knock at the door. I opened the door and raised my eyebrows inquiringly. "Look," he said, "we got off on the wrong foot." I interrupted him saying, "No, you got off on the wrong foot. What the F is going through your mind that you think this is okay behavior? Have you called the cops yet? I'm looking forward to that." "Look, I'll pay your BS parking fee. Just let my car out." I don't know that at the moment my wife had turned the sign around and raised the rate to $50 an hour. "Okay, let's go. I'll move the grill and try to find my neighbor." He saw the repriced sign. "Christ on a cracker, I don't have that much money." My wife had put her gun back in the safe, but she gave him the look that when I see it, I know I'd better start learning how to sleep with one eye open. She said, "I don't believe that you're out hitting garage sales without plenty of ready cash in pocket. Last chance or I'm calling the cops right now. This could take hours to settle." His face started going up the VIBGYOR spectrum as he counted out the cash. "Okay, now would you move the effing car?" "Hey, Bob, would you move your car for this gentleman?" I said. Bob walked out my front door and said, "Sure, glad to." I handed Bob a 20 as he walked by. The funny thing is, the a-hole's wife and daughter never said a single word during this entire time. Not a word. I started to feel very sorry for them. And the last story is, think I'm too poor and not good enough to shop in your clothing store? Miss out on a $2,000 sale. So I was accompanying my girlfriend on her winter shop to stock up on new clothes, and after she finished her purchases, asked me if I wanted to look at anything. Which I thought, why not, as long as we're here. So we go into a certain large urban clothing store, typical overpriced trendy sweatshop store, and started looking around. Mind you, I'm wearing tracksuit pants, a hooded jumper, and beanie because it was a lazy Saturday for me. After about 10 minutes, I received no customer service at all, even when I'm looking at buying a fleece leather jacket for $250 that I wanted for riding on my motorbike. Anyway, they didn't have the jacket in my size out the floor, so after finally pinning down a staff member, I asked if they had anything else out the back, to which he replied, "We might have, but I don't think the jacket or anything in this store is for someone like you," with the condescending look on his face. Completely gobsmacked, my girlfriend and I let out this kinda "seriously?" scoff and walked out. Now, I'm not rich, but I'm well off because of my job and minor living expenses. So I think to myself, F that P, and start walking around for a new shop and come across an Oxford store, which seemed to have really nice business casual wear and suits. The second I walk through the door, this immaculate Chris Hemsworth-looking bubbly ray of sunshine comes up to me and my girlfriend and asks how our day has been and says we aren't leaving until he can go all queer-eye me. So bugger it, why not then? We spent over an hour in the store and ended up buying 2 full suits, 3 pairs of shoes, a cashmere jumper, some other shirts and pants, a leather wallet, and everything fitted by an in-house tailor. The staff member asked me if I needed anything else, and I said I'd like it all put into bags with big Oxford labels on the side. I decided to keep wearing one of the suits and put my lazy clothes in a bag for the rest of the day. Well, after my splurge, I wanted to get my hair fixed up to complete the picture, and after walked through a department store and sampled some colognes as well. Afterwards, we headed back over to the clothing store and went back to looking at the fleece jacket and was immediately apprehended by the same staff member who was rude beforehand. After a few seconds of talking, he recognized who I was and looked me up and down and spotted the big shopping bags and asked if I still wanted him to see if there was something in the back. I just looked him straight in the eye and said, "Probably not, mate. I just dropped about $2,000 at another place you'd never be able to afford, and your clothes just aren't good enough for someone like me." After I walked out of the store, I felt like both a stuck-up P, but also proud to rub it in that snob's face for being disrespectful because I looked lower class. I've no intention of being disrespectful to retail workers in general or people of different classes, but this guy set me off because of his attitude about people of lower status. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you liked it, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications.